Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people to learn from their stories, experiences, and get their insights. If you would like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. On today's episode, Leah Welborn joins us to discuss Reiki, spirit guides, and the importance of celebrating each season. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. Leah, thanks so much for joining me here on Autism Stories.
Thank you, Doug. I'm glad to be here.
I'd love to start out by learning, where does your story in the autistic community begin?
Probably at the beginning of time, when all of our little souls were being formed and put into different bodies and whatnot. But I suppose you're talking about in this lifetime. So I can say, of course, I was born autistic, but I did not know that I was autistic until I was in my late 40s, and I'm 51 now. So it hasn't been very long since I've been diagnosed. I had begun to notice women who I relate with, who I feel like have had experiences close to mine and who express themselves in ways that I express themselves, began to say that they were neurodivergent 4 or 5 years ago. And that really piqued my interest because I thought, that's something to think about. I'd never heard the term. I'd never considered it before. I just thought I was weird and not easy to get along with. I didn't like that was how people perceived me, because that's not how I feel. When I started to investigate this neurodivergence a little bit more, I readily accepted that that's what I was, that's how I feel. And then the more I embraced that and was looking into stories of other women, particularly who are autistic, I thought, yeah, that's pretty much right down the line who I am. And so I asked my general physician, family practitioner, whatever you call them. And I'm very privileged to have a very wonderful general practitioner who I love and who is very open-minded and kind and considerate. And as soon as I brought it up with her, she said, yeah, I think that's a very strong possibility. I have a psychiatrist who I recommend you go see. And I did, and it was as easy as having a conversation with him and discussing my life. And he said, yeah, without a doubt, you're autistic. I'm fully willing to stand behind that. And I just paused for a moment on the diagnosis because I know so many people are so, am I autistic? Should I try to get a diagnosis? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to cost money? I'm fortunate because I'm on Medicaid. I'm fortunate that I don't make enough money to have insurance. So I'm on Medicaid and I'm in Colorado, so it didn't cost me anything. So perhaps that is something that people would investigate. But on the other hand, I also want to say that diagnosis is only as important as it is to you yourself. Formal diagnosis. So if you feel like that's who you are, own it. You don't need to have somebody sign a piece of paper to tell you who you are. So that's kind of a long way around, but that's the answer.
Now, on social media, you're known as the Mystic Autistic. What does being a Mystic Autistic mean to you?
I believe, and I have get a little woo-woo here, but I have a very close relationship with my spirit guides. And they have revealed to me that we autistic people are the original shaman folk. We are people who are naturally very connected with the divine, whatever that means to the individual. And when civilization began, roughly 10,000 years ago, we've been humans for about 250,000 years. So it's a really small part of our human existence that we've spent as civilized people. We were in our natural state before that. I believe, and my guides revealed to me, that in all that 240,000 years of existence, it was the autistic people who other people came to for help in communicating with the divine. That's just our natural role. And we were all, I don't want to say we were all happy, but it was natural. It was a good fit. It was a natural fit. Civilization came along, and there was no longer a place for those of us who have a connection to the divine, especially if it's not within a church structure where you get the orders from the fellow at the top. And I say fellow because it's never a woman. And then you dissipate those orders. You don't have that direct connection in order to tell other people how it is. That doesn't work for the church. So we as autistic people were relegated to figure it out yourself, try to act more like us neurotypical people to get along. And we no longer have our natural place in society. To me, being a mystic autistic is quite natural. I have always felt extremely connected to the divine, very, very spiritual, but I didn't know how that worked into my regular life. Now I understand that my connection to the divinity is my life. That's my role in life. So to me, being the mystic autistic is just embracing the spiritual role that I believe autistic people have in our universe.
It's interesting you bring up the, original shaman folk being us as autistic people, because I'm involved in my local spiritual and healing community. And when I'm in those spaces, my spirit guides alert me that there are probably a lot of other autistic and neurodivergent people in those spaces. What's been your experience in connecting with autistic people that know they're autistic or don't in those spaces?
It's so interesting to me that I'd say probably more often than not when I'm interviewing people on my podcast, and the people I interview are all spiritual leaders. They're people who have written books about spirituality. They're professional witches. They're musicians who do high vibe music. That's their life. And more often than not, while we're talking, either they will say, I'm autistic, or I suspect I'm autistic, or they'll say to me, the things that you're saying sound a lot like my life and the way my mind works. I wonder if I am neurodivergent or autistic and have just never looked into it before. So I think you're right on. I think that the spiritual space is filled with neurodivergent and autistic people, whether they know it or not.
You have a Reiki studio in the Colorado area. So for those that may not be familiar with Reiki, what do you think it's important for them to know?
Well, the very first thing that I would say that's important to know about Reiki is that it operates on the fact that everything is energy. Every single thing is energy. This microphone is energy. I'm energy. Doug, you're energy. The computer. It looks like it's solid because it's slowed so down. We simply don't have the perceptual awareness to see the little molecules vibrating like they are and seeing that everything is energy. So Reiki works with us as energy bodies. We tune into the chakras, which are energy centers within our body. And in Reiki, I use my guides and the guides of my client and whatever other benevolent spirits like to join us. I always pray before I begin a session. And I pray that I am able to feel my client's energy and to work with moving their energy around in their body to where it needs to be. For instance, I often have experiences with my women clients who are their three lower chakras are very isolated from one another. It's almost as if they're in fear of being judged by one another and they're holding back. And so when I do a Reiki session, I work with the client on moving that energy up and around in the body so that each of the energy centers feel more integrated with each other. Because so many of us walk through our lives feeling like we're at a war in our own selves. Our ego is at war with our inner child, is at war with our higher self, and it's just... So how can we be at peace, right? How can we be a peaceful person and bring peace into the world if within our own selves we've got that war? And a lot of us don't talk about that war. We don't want to talk about that war. It's embarrassing. It's icky. It's So as a Reiki practitioner, I have the honor of helping people resolve that war within themselves by bringing that energy more into alignment. That would be, I say, the main thing that I do, is to help people find peace with the energy within themselves.
For people that aren't as fortunate to live in the Colorado area and can't come to your studio, they are able to still access your Reiki sessions as you do these sessions remotely as well. Have there been many differences you've observed for those that have had the in-person, the remote sessions with you?
I think people are pretty much, and even myself, a little bit surprised when I can say, okay, I'm about to touch your feet. Here we go. And that person's several thousand miles away. But I have asked for permission to have their energy body. Like if I were doing a session with you right now, I'd say, Dad, may I have permission to work with your energy body here on my Reiki table? If you said yes, then it's spooky, it's wild, it's crazy, but I guarantee you one day science will be able to show this. It happens. A part of my client's body leaves their body and comes to be with me. And it's wild. Because when I'm saying, I'm going to touch your feet now, whoa, okay, I felt you touch my feet. And it's real. It's not just in their minds, because then I can be going up their leg and say, seems as if there's a knot in your right leg, like something's going on between your hip and your knee. And they'll say, yeah, I had a car accident. I had a dog bite. I had whatever. And you pinpointed exactly that spot. That's not me. That's Reiki. That's the energy of the universe coming in and sussing out what's going on in your body and allowing me to verbalize it for the client so that that's verification. Yeah, this person is feeling my energy, and yeah, they can help me. And it's a shocking thing that happens. It's wild, and I love it.
So many times on this podcast, I have mentioned that energy is my main source for communication, which is pretty funny for someone that hosts a podcast where the spoken word is
right. So why are we not just here thinking at each other?
Yeah. What do you say to that as a Reiki practitioner?
That we all are gifted and are able to tap into things within ourselves, magic, psychic ability, whatever you want to call it. We all have it. It's just buried. It's buried so deep in some that they don't find it for many, many, many lifetimes. Some of us just come out and like, whoa, that kid is on fire. They're psychic. They can talk to animals, whatever it is. It's not a good or bad thing. It's a progression. It's an evolution. There are ways that we can tap more into that energy if we want to. Some people don't want to, I don't think, and that's fine. That's their path. But I think for those of us who do want to tap into that energy, we have to be able to quiet the other crap that's piled on top of it. It's not a matter, to my mind, of going out and finding that book, that lesson, that song, whatever, that's going to teach me how to communicate with energy. It's getting rid of all of the crap that's been piled on top of it. And we all have it. And animals have it. To me, I believe that everything in the universe except humans can communicate with each other at ease and with a glance. Somewhere along the line, we decided to opt out of that. I hope that we're getting ourselves back to it.
Now, from my understanding, Reiki is about strengthening our flow of energy and raising our vibration. I'm wondering, beyond Reiki, what might be some other things you do to raise your vibration?
Well, I want to say first that one size fits all is a lie. It's just not true. So the things that I do may not be correct for you or anyone else, and vice versa. For me, quitting drinking was essential. I fought it for a really long time because I really liked to drink. I drank a bottle at least of wine a day. It was my thing. It was my comfort. And I did it for years and years and years. And I had an ego thing about it. Like, that's my thing. Don't talk to me about it. It's personal. It's mine. And when I finally came to a point of, like, I have to change. I'm miserable. I had to see that as my daily wine habit as something that was not assisting my joy and my ease in living. It was actually hampering me. And I had to just make that decision on an intellectual level before I could accept it because it was so hard for me. But once I got about a month, 2 months out of not drinking daily anymore, man, my guides came in. They were just like, you're awake. Baby, you're awake. We can talk to you now. And that was so key and so beautiful for me. And it makes me certain that I'll never want to drink again because I know they'll go away because I closed them out. So for me, stopping drinking was essential. Getting to really understand my nervous system was essential in raising my vibration. As an autistic person, I feel under assault so much of the time by the world. And so understanding and not judging the way my nervous system reacts is so key because it goes back to that war that I was having with myself. I couldn't raise my vibration when I was at war with myself. There was always the ego waiting to snipe at the inner child and the inner child crying because this was hurting. I had to get all of that coordinated and understand how my nervous system was working to inflame different parts and soothe different parts and get that all together functioning as a happy family in order to raise my own personal vibration. And I think that whatever method it takes to get you to really know yourself, that would be key to raising your elevation and your vibration. Because if you don't know yourself, if you're just walking around being assaulted and reacting to the world, you're not ever going to have a chance to raise your vibe. You're always going to be in just combat all the time.
I read where you said that January is a dumb time to start a year and that you make a crown to celebrate each season. So what's the importance of these crowns and what are your plans for the autumn equinox, which is coming up on September 22nd?
Yeah, great question. I think that a year is of course, it's 4 seasons. It is a natural structure. But the way that we in our society, like January 1st, we start over, make your goals, get yourself in line. You're going to lose that fat. You're going to stop those bad habits. You're going to be a whole new person. That doesn't make any sense, especially coming in the dead of winter when by our other society construct, we've just been through this whole buy all the things, be happy, celebrate. It's Christmas, yay. We're tired on January 1st. It's dark. It's cold in most places, in America anyway. And it just doesn't make any sense to choose that point as let's start over, let's refresh. And anyway, 365 days is a hell of a long time to try to plan and hold a goal. You don't know what's going to be happening. Like right now I'm sitting here with a broken leg. I didn't have any idea in January I was going to have a broken leg. So if my plans for July, August, September did not take into account that I had a broken leg, then I was going to have a huge failure. And that's really depressing. So you don't know what's going to happen. You barely know what's going to happen the next day, much less 11 months down the road. So for me, operating by the seasons, the natural revelation of the year, it's so much more comfortable as a human and as an autistic human to think in 12, 13 weeks. That's a very manageable lump of time. It's a season. It's going to be roughly the same kind of weather the whole season, which dictates my mood a lot. If it's cold, I generally am not wanting to start new exciting projects. I just kind of want to hunker down, finish up stuff, dream about the future, relax. So for me, going by the wheel of the year is so much more comfortable because it's so much more manageable. And when I'm making my goals for fall, I'm going to take into account that I have a broken leg and it's still recovering. So I can't just I think I'll start training for a marathon. No, I'm going to do things that embrace the fact that I have a broken leg right now. And I think that's so much more human and manageable for people in general, and especially for us neurodivergent or autistic people who is just so easily overwhelmed by all of the lifing that has to be done. As for my crown this season, it's going to be a little bit different, and that stems from the fact that I broke my leg. In the past, my crowns have been extremely over the top and gaudy, and it's just like, go to the Dollar Tree, get the most fun, exciting color, what appeals to me, bright, 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 yay. And so it's these huge, tremendous, silly crowns of artificial flowers, which is so fun, and they photograph so well, and it's just great. This time, though, because I broke my leg, I've had to slow down so much and focus so much on the things that really, truly matter to me. This has been a very deep call to authenticity for my guides. And so for this crown in particular, I may go back, I don't know, but right now, this one's going to be all dried flowers, so things that actually came from the earth. And it's mostly going to be lotus flowers, because no mud, no lotus. These lotus flowers have grown up out of the mud. And to me, that very much shows coming from bad circumstances, like breaking my leg, and using that as a nutrient to grow to a new level and to open and be accepting to new levels of evolution and leaving the past behind. So this crown is going to be all dried lotus flowers and dried daisies, also showing new beginnings. I do a photo shoot, and I'm talking about a selfie shoot. I set out my camera in my backyard, and I just frolic and play and just take all the photos. And this time, I can't run and be silly because my leg's broken. So it will be a much more understated, but very truthful and authentic and hopeful crown and photo shoot, because I feel just so blessed. I feel that this broken leg, as horrible as an experience it has been, it's been so instrumental in deepening my practice and my beliefs and my love for myself and for life. And I want to celebrate that with my crown. And I encourage anybody who wants to make a crown or a wreath or a belt buckle or a t-shirt or whatever. It's such a fun way to mark the turning of the seasons and to just be like, yep, this is it. So often it's a day on the calendar. Oh, it's fall today. Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Summer yesterday. Big deal. No, it is a big deal. For 250,000 years, that was the way we lived. And now we've just kind of, I suggest maybe we return to those things to find more strength and wholeness and power in ourselves.
And lastly, Leah, how can our listeners learn about you and your services beyond this interview?
They can certainly go to my website, leahwelborn.net. I'm on social media, generally as Leah Welborn, sometimes Leah Welborn 32, because that is my favorite number. And if for some reason my name is not available, I just tack a 32 on, so you can find me there. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Substack, media. I'm everywhere. I have a link tree that's got all those links. LeahWelborn.net is the best place to find me. You can contact me to book Reiki sessions there. I have a lot of writings up on my website to listen to my podcast, Empower Your Magical Self. Lots of ways to learn about my work and lots of ways to get in touch with me. And I'm available. I love to talk about this stuff.
Well, I really appreciated you talking about this stuff today. It was wonderful to meet you, and I hope many of our listeners come your way to your website and find you on social media. Thanks so much for your time today.
I really appreciate it, Doug. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Leah for the conversation. To learn more about Leah and her services, please check out the link in the podcast description for this episode. We always love hearing from you. I would especially love to hear from you relating to this episode regarding if you've ever tried Reiki. If so, what has your experience been like? Did you know Autism Personal Coach provides neurodiversity affirming support by autistics for autistics? We empower autistic adults and teens to lead self-directed, purpose-driven lives through customized life coaching and community groups. Our distinct approach prioritizes each client's unique goals and preferences, fostering a sense of agency and promoting self-advocacy. Coaches work collaboratively with clients to develop personalized strategies and tools that can help with executive functioning, emotional regulation, relationship building, stress management, and much more. We also support parents and partners of autistic people by providing insights and guidance to bridge communication gaps and nurture mutual understanding. With our accessible remote services, individuals from any location can receive the assistance and mentoring they need. Join us today to experience judgment-free coaching rooted in empathy, expertise, and respect for autistic identity. Until next time, I'm Doug Bletcher of Autism Personal Coach. Talk to you then.